Hey there, people. This is Nina Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for being here. This show is created to discuss real life topics to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. And today I have Indra Rinzler here, and he is a lifetime spiritual seeker. He is a healer and a teacher, and he offers life readings for his clients. And his focus is to help his clients to wake up to who they really are. And as you guys know, I love to have conversations where we can be truthful and authentic, but also a way to challenge the way you normally think. So, Indra, I am really, really happy you're on Straight Talk. Thank you for being here. How are you today?
I'm really good. Thank you so much for having me, Nina. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. I am too. I love looking at things from different views and different perspectives. And so I love that you are a spiritual healer and a teacher, and I want to know more about that. So before we get into that, though, who are you, Indra? What do you do? I mean, I know what you do, but who are you? Like, what's the magic behind the Indra?
I don't know what the magic behind Indra has nothing to do with me. It's divinity. It's the
Mm,
cosmic intelligence that exists. How I got here, I can't tell you. I can tell you 50 years ago when I first moved to California, I found metaphysical bookstores and I started buying books and I started reading about astrology and I started reading about spirituality, and then I put one foot in front of the other. I lived 20 years in an ashram, or you might call it a spiritual community,
mm.
where I learned about discipleship and I learned about the depth of the spiritual path following a Indian teacher. And then I left to I suppose to find myself, to do my own work, to sometimes we have it easy and then we decide that we need to completely shake that up, that
Yeah.
we could stay in this forever, but it isn't really what we need to do. And
Right.
so the thought comes on, we need to do other things. And so,
Yeah.
that's, I've got 20 years under my belt on that too,
Mm.
where eventually the life readings, the astrology, and working with the Enneagram of Personality, those modalities that I felt connected to, have become in the forefront, and being available for clients who find me, who are interested in going deep into their story in order to become who they are. And I'm so happy to be able to help people that way.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds very interesting. And as you were talking, I'm wondering, where were you spiritually before that, right? Because you kind of have to be somewhat open, right? Someone like open-minded and open to the fact that there is a different way of looking at life, a different, that there is a spiritual existence. So, were you always grew up in that like kind of lifestyle or thought process, or how did that come about?
Well, that's an interesting question. There's an Indian teaching, nete nete, not this, not that.
Mhm.
And I think before, I think that I was sheltered. I think uh, my parents died when I was in my early 20s. My mother
Mhm.
passed of natural causes a week after I graduated college, and my
Oh,
father
wow.
passed 2 years later. And so I had I had a little bit of inheritance, and I had a freedom. They like, I felt like they passed in order to give me the opportunity that they had always given me, which was to protect me and let me grow in my own way. Because
Mhm.
growing up in New York, near you, growing up in Manhattan, it was, in the 50s, it was the place to be, but it wasn't a place that I felt that I wanted to be. I could
Mhm.
see that it wasn't the place. How?
Right.
Because people weren't happy, because they were, conditioned. They were running stories. This is today's vocabulary, but
Mhm.
and so I would say that, this nete nete, I didn't really know what I was looking for, but I knew what I wasn't looking for. And so it
Mm.
was one step in front of the other to find what was real, what was important. rather than I certainly didn't know what it was, but I had the a sense of open, what you say, open mind. I had the sense of security within myself that I could go on this path. And one of the first things I ever did as an adult, surprisingly, probably not too many people have this on their list, was to start a commune or a family living together in a house in 1971. You know, way
Mm,
before people started thinking about community. I was attracted to that as a way. It was a family. It was opportunity to learn about ourselves in the real world. We were, many of us, college grads, but we didn't really know anything about life or about ourselves or about each other. And it was an opportunity to follow that path for a while.
wow, that just was that something that you had like seen or experienced somewhere? I mean, or did that just birth into your mind to have this community? And second part to that question is, did you do that here in New York?
No, I was already in California.
Oh, okay.
I left New York after college. I went back. I was there for a little bit after my mother died, and that was about it.
Okay.
4 years later, but it was in California. No, I think for me, it's just appears. You know, an idea
Mhm.
appears. I'm a spontaneous person, and A led to B led to C, and it's like if so I bought a house, and I you know, I thought to have renters. We had space,
Right.
and then one thing led to another, and by the end we had 14 people. We had 22 cats at the height. We had, I think, 3 dogs. We had goats. We had our goat. We had chickens. We were living on an acre in suburbia.
Okay.
And what did you say, hippie?
No, no, I said okay. Okay
Yeah.
then.
So you know, and we had a
Hippie.
teepee. We had a teepee on the land. We had built some cabins.
Oh, that's
We had a
so
teepee
funny.
on the land, and it was, you
Wow.
know, it was off the map as far as what was being done around there in the
Right.
1971.
Did you enjoy that
No.
time of your life?
Oh yeah, it was yeah, it was so open, it was so new, it was so fresh. It was, there were no, we knew nothing, you know.
Mhm.
There were no paths, you know. The It's like the forest, there were no paths in the forest, and we just started walking. Maybe there were some deer trails we followed, but it's not that I'm talking about walking in the forest. I'm using that as
Right,
an
right. Right.
analogy to
Got it.
going through my life. And so, you know, I had the opportunity and the openness and the New York chutzpah to do whatever I did. And I remember being, I don't know, 23 or 24, and realizing that I wanted to work on myself, you know. And I don't
Mm,
remember the vocabulary I used then. Today we might say come into my power, or you know, wake up to who I really am, or learn about myself. I don't know, you know, maybe then I might have said I wanted to be happy. I have no idea,
right. Right.
but that was the focus, and it wasn't external. It wasn't about fitting in. It wasn't about looking good. It wasn't about attaining anything, and still isn't.
Right. 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 So I know you didn't learn this in college. So what did you go to college for?
Well, I don't. I think I went to college to get the degree. You
Right. What
know,
did you
I
get a
mean,
degree in? Do you know? Do you remember what?
I got a degree in history, and
Oh, okay.
I went into engineering because I was
Mm,
mathematical, and I think
right.
that's why astrology has always held an interest to me. I think in terms, I used to think in terms of mathematicals. I kind
Mm,
of still do, but not the numbers part of it, you know,
mhm.
because both astrology and Enneagram is sacred geometry to me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
now we
Okay.
can use that term. 50 years
Right.
ago, I wouldn't have used that term, but they're sacred. They have a sacred geometry energy to it, and I just I just one step in front of the other. We don't need to know the last step. We just need to know the step we're on or the next step,
Yeah.
and that's enough. And it leads us to what we need to what we to where we get to. I don't want to say where we need to get to, but it leads us to where we get to, and then
Yeah.
we make a course correction from there.
Right. And I actually I've noticed that throughout our conversation already that it all is about one step at a time. And that's such a wise way to do it, right? And I love that you just said when you get there, if you need to make a course correction, you make the course correction. And I think that's a beautiful way to look at it and a beautiful way to live, because most times we're looking at the destination and we're not enjoying the journey. And we're not looking at all of the things that we are learning and experiencing on the way to whatever that destination is, right? Because I was talking to a very wealthy entrepreneur, and they were saying that they wanted to get to the top of the mountain, but when they got to the top of the mountain, they realized there was another mountain to climb, right? And I'm just like, yeah, because we're always looking at the next thing. And what I love about what you're saying, Indra, is that, you know, I don't know how I got there, but I know that it was one step at a time, and I know that it just kept growing as it naturally did. And that's beautiful, right? Because if we just did that in our lives, I think we'd be much happier. You know, there wouldn't be so much competition, so much like stress, and so much, you know, like all of this overwhelm that a lot of people are feeling because they're, you know, yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, the thing is that the only way that you learn that is by going through it. And
Right.
so let's not make mincemeat out of it. The fact is that that's the path you're on until you're not on it. And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. But I myself, lucky enough to have parents that set me up, and they gave me an I guess I probably had the understanding myself, but they didn't kill it.
Right.
And the
That's
understanding
good.
is
Yeah.
that there's that it's not about the end result, because the end result isn't those end results, those materialistic end results. They didn't hold anything for me. And so
Mhm.
going to
Mhm.
college was about social. Going to college was learning, but not, yeah, I kind of finished what my last I think my last semester I took an anthropology course, and I realized that I probably would have enjoyed more of that, but I didn't realize
Mhm.
it until the end course, and but to the last semester. And that's okay, because I've studied enough of it. Whatever I wanted to study in it, I've been able to
Right.
study it. And it wasn't about sitting in those classes, I'm sure. It was about being open to that material, and that has come. So I don't need to feel like I burnt a bridge or didn't cross a bridge or something. It's
Right.
you can have
I love
like you're
that.
saying, you
Yeah.
can have a lifetime of that if you
Mhm.
want, all of
Mhm.
the things you didn't do, rather the things that you did do.
Right. Oh, I love that perspective. I love that point of view. And it's something that, you know, most people do need to focus on. So I did want to talk to you about what it is that you do with your clients, because
Sure.
um, that's important too. And I think that, you know, like when I read your bio, the fact that you want people to be awake and to see who they really are. So can you tell us a little bit about that? What does that mean for you?
Well, somebody asked me recently in a podcast, what does that mean? And so the line is, to wake up to who you really are, not who you think you are. So who is it that you
Mm.
think you are? Who you
Hmm.
think you are is your personality. That we identify with this personality, and then we say, I'm a homeowner, I'm a scholar, I'm a author, I'm a statistician, I'm a philanthropist, whatever it is. That's who we identify with, but it's not really who we are. Who we are is an essence. Who we are is spirit. Who we are is soul. And we're in these we take life in these bodies, um, and we create an identity and an experience.
Mm.
And so I want to get people back to who they really are, which is essence. You can still have the experiences, but you do it from the place of being outside the identities where you're limiting yourself to where I call it, rather than being on the movie screen, you watch your life as a movie from the audience, to be the
Okay.
to gather the to take on the witness consciousness, that you are witnessing your life rather than being so involved in it that you go up and downs with the emotionals, with your successes and perceived lack of successes. How many times is I read in a book recently that our crises are what bring us to self-awareness,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that without the crises we wouldn't have the self-awareness. And if we have a
Mm,
relationship that is all hunky-dory, then there's not much growth, and we need those little frictions. That the
right.
purpose ultimately of relationship is to be a mirror. It's wonderful to have kids together, it's wonderful intimacy, it's wonderful to have meals made for you and to clean the house for somebody, or to have your house cleaned, but ultimately it's about being a mirror for each other, that we each have to do our own work, that
Right.
that that in 20s and 30s and 40s you're working on the other one doing the work for you, and at some point you realize that ain't working. And so
Right.
it's really up to you to do your work, and that the partner, the beautiful partner, is the one that mirrors back to you with unconditional love the stuff that you need to work on.
So, do you put your clients like through some sort of process to do that? Like what are your what's your method to
So
doing that?
So I have three modalities that I use in the life reading that have appeared to me over the years, and when I look back at now from my rocking chair, I just have to sort of chuckle at how they are. They're so me. They're my energy in terms of this mathematical frequency, in terms of their explanations, in terms of the answers to the questions of life that I was looking for. What is this? I remember going back. I remember being 17, thinking you can't take a vacation from yourself. And so
Right.
I think it's, I don't know about younger than that, but I had a philosophical side. I just didn't really have any answers, because in the 50s there was those, a lot of books hadn't been written yet.
Right. Right.
you know,
Right.
I mean, maybe some of them were being written, and maybe some of them were already written that I didn't find until later, but there weren't so many books like there are now. So I take people in 3 hours. It's a process. I take people through their Enneagram of Personality. There are 9 personality stories. One of them is at our core, and the idea is that once we understand that there are patterning in this personality story, and there's core triggers, and so once we understand the patterning and the core triggers, then it doesn't hold us very much. It doesn't hold us as much, and we can start letting those stories go once we
Mm. Mm.
um, once we understand what we're doing. Again, it's not so much 20s and 30s, but as we get older and we get some distance on ourselves, once we see what we're doing, we're ready to let that go and to change our ways of behaving. And so that's the Enneagram. Then I take them through their astrology, the Vedic astrology, the astrology of India. I do astrology a little bit different than most people, uh, which is probably true for almost everything that I do. Uh, now that I think about it, so I'm interested in strengths and weaknesses. I want to share with you your strengths and weaknesses, the good things and the skills that you have, and then some things that aren't so good. Can you overcome it? Absolutely, but you can't.
Mhm.
It's really hard to overcome when you don't understand it. But when you understand it, then you have that. Then you can get some traction with it, and you can climb over it or out of it. And then the third modality is called the Wheel of Totality, and it shows the deficiencies or the blind spots that we don't work on until we're 50. And
Mm.
why is that? Because again, in 20s and 30s, we're not interested in our deficiencies. We're mostly interested in
Right.
building up our ego. And so later in life, and this can be valuable for 20s and 30s too, to know what is it that is just beyond your grasp of understanding. What is it that other people have really clearly, and they would be an example of discovering who you really are. That you
Mm,
don't, some people don't really know who they are, and they have a challenge to figure that out. In order to, they have to come into that identity to be able to let it go. It could be the second house duality, which is about the people who don't have a planet there. They live in black and white. They don't live in gray. And what that means is that they can live in that you can love somebody but not like what they do, that you can be tired but not sleepy tired, you can be hungry but not meal hungry, that you can live in gray, that you can live
right.
in between, that you can be okay with things as they are,
Mm,
rather than thinking very limitedly in black and white terms. This is, I don't want to say half the population, but you either have a planet there or you don't. And
right.
so it's either a grace that you understand it, or it's a challenge because you don't.
Right. And so you think that someone who is a person who looks at something in black and white can change to see things in gray?
Absolutely. It's not an easy thing. It's easier later in life when you've had more experiences,
Right.
but you do learn that you know, I'm right, but he might also have some truth in what he's saying.
Right. Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
and then
Right.
maybe you realize that, maybe his point of view is absolutely completely right and mine is a little fallacious. I'm
Right.
sucking wind here and what I'm thinking. I'm egotistical. I'm not egotistical, but arrogant, that I
Mhm.
know and other people don't know. When we let go of our arrogance, then we're open to the idea that other people have something that they may be right about things. And so absolutely, it's not an easy one. And when you get pushed, you're going to go back to black and white,
Mhm. Mhm.
but you definitely can overcome that.
Oh, that's
And
good. No, go ahead.
yeah, and I wanted to share that. So at the end of the reading, so we spend 3, 4, or 5 hours, and I have, if people want other sessions, then we can pick it up again, and we can take. I'm happy to take people as far as I can. Well, it's not me doing. I wanted to say this before. It's not me doing anything. It's the wisdom comes through me. It's not my wisdom. So, but at the end, sometimes people will say, "Great, Indra, this is incredible information. Now, what do I do with this?" And so
Right.
I
I
came
was gonna
up with
ask that.
yeah. Oh, okay. So, uh, what appeared to me is this idea that I call the four doorways to conscious living. And so the four doorways are: one is to learn to observe. That's the getting out of your own movie, getting into the audience of your movie, to watch your behavior, to watch your thinking, to watch how you react to what people say to you, and whether they appear or they don't appear, and what triggers you and what doesn't trigger you. So that's the learning to observe. That's the fourth doorway, the first doorway. And then
Mhm.
the second doorway is to let go and release what doesn't serve you. And I like to read this. This is from a book titled Letting Go, by a very enlightened man named David Hawkins. And
Mhm.
it says, letting go involves being aware of a feeling, letting it come up, staying with it, and letting it run its course without wanting to make it different or do anything about it. It means simply to let the feeling be there and to focus on letting out the energy behind it. When letting go, ignore all thoughts. And so that's
Wow.
the second doorway.
Mhm.
Then the third doorway is to love yourself, and the fourth doorway is to live in the moment. So if you're in the moment, you will love you. You are loving yourself. There's no
Mhm.
way to
Mhm.
be in the moment and not loving yourself. And so, how do I love myself? Well, you let go and release what doesn't serve you, and we have to spend a lot of time there. This is this is a lifetime achievement award. Letting go, letting go, letting go. That surrendering on
Yeah.
all levels, no matter how enlightened you are, it's a continual process of letting
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
and surrendering. The fact is that it becomes second nature and you're not thinking about it. But even at a Jesus Christ level, there's still letting go and surrendering in there. It's not
Mm-hmm.
conscious. It's not something that he, ideally he has to work on, but still surrendering and letting go is part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge.
And so how do we know what to let go and release is that we just observe, and situations in life will tell us what it is that we're attached to and what we're holding on to and what positions we're holding, and in letting go of those positions, then we can live in the moment. And in the moment, nothing touches us. Everything is beautiful, and it's always spring and warm
I
weather
love that.
in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good, Indra. That's so good. As you're talking, I'm like, yeah, because I'm enjoying I really do focus on doing that in my life, where when I'm having a conversation with my guest, my client, whatever, I really try to enjoy that moment, because I know that this moment is special. And I also know this moment is fleeing, right? We won't be able to repeat the same things we just did or do this. I mean, it's gone, it's done. The good thing is, though, is that if you're in with that person at that moment, in that at that time when you're speaking, you can at least appreciate and be grateful for the conversation, for the whatever nugget you took away that you might have learned, the connection that could have happened. So I agree with that. I think living in the moment is just such a beautiful thing. And it also gets you out of your own way, doesn't it? You're not overthinking, or stressed about that bill you have to pay later, because you're just in this moment right now. So I love that, Andrew. I think you're doing great work.
Well, I'm going to say absolutely. Not, I don't know about the great work, but absolutely to the idea and the moment, the next moment is just as good as the past moment,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in that moment you can relive the joy of the moment that you already had. I mean, you don't want to sit in it in terms of it being a past, and that moment will not come back. But that moment you can enjoy,
Yeah.
that moment of the joy of that moment. You can enjoy that joy in any moment, because the joy of the next moment, that joy is the same. It may not have the same cause, but it still is the same joy.
Right. Oh,
It's
so
not a
good.
different joy.
Right. Exactly. I love this. All right. And just so I want to, before I even like let you go, I really do want you to tell my audience how they can connect with you. So how do they get to do this kind of work with you? I know that you said you do it all in maybe in one session or a few sessions, but it'd be great for them to know at least where to contact you and how to get started. So give us all of your information.
Okay, happy to do that. I have a website, indrarinzler.com. If you want to find out more about what I'm doing, you can check there. I have an email, indrarinzler@gmail.com. If you have questions, you can connect with me there. I have a Facebook that I'm pretty active on. Under my name, you can find me there if you're interested in that. I like to give your listeners 2 free offers. If you're interested in your
Please.
Vedic astrology chart, you send me an email. I need repeat 3 pieces of information: your birth date, your birth time, and your birthplace. And I will send you back your chart with a little bit of a cheat sheet, so it'll tell you a little bit of how to read it. Not a reading, but how to read the chart, how to understand the information, how to get the information in the chart, and then you have to go deeper into what the positions mean. But at least you can figure out the positions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also, if you're interested and you write me, I'd be interested to send people a simple 5 to 10 minute test to figure out your Enneagram number. The 9 personality types are numbered 1 through 9. There's no hierarchy. They also have names, but of course, people use different names. So we use the numbers as just a quick way to reference. And so it's a 5 to 10 minute test that for many people, you'll be able to figure out your Enneagram number. And if you can't figure out that number, you can start a dialogue. I mean, an investigation into the different numbers that you might be, in order to find out what's really at your core. So if anybody's
Mm-hmm.
interested in that, they can contact me through the email.
Awesome, Indra. Thank you so much for taking time to be here with me. I appreciated this conversation, and I really did love your perspective and your view on things, and doing, taking that one step at a time, enjoying the process, and really pivoting when you need to pivot, and not so concerned about when you get there if you need to pivot. I love that. So thank you for your time and your wisdom. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Neena.
This is a great pleasure. And guys, don't forget to follow Indra. I'm going to make sure that I link all of his information below, so that way you can just click and go on there. Remember that he had offered you those 2 free resources. So make sure that you email him as well. I think it's indrarinzler@gmail.com. Is that correct? Perfect. Indra
Yes.
Rinzler at gmail.com. But I'll make sure to link his information below so you can go on there and check that out. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and join our community. We are growing this community quickly, and I want you to be a part of it. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.
This broadcast is brought to you by Wincheck Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.